it's a place for people to find a group, find connection, find links through a shared activity that everybody enjoys in some degrees. Whether you are more into being meticulous and taking care of the plants in the greenhouse, or whether you are more interested in to do handiwork and repairing the raised beds or replacing wood bits and stuff, or whether you like to get your hands dirty and do the compost. And I think like all these things just bring so many different people together that creates this local and yet very varied place.
We're in Cranbrook Community Food Garden in East London. It's an amazing, peaceful space that's actually right in the middle of a housing estate. It was created in 2009, transformed by residents and many volunteers over the years from an abandoned children's play area to a vibrant shared garden. We're joined today by one of the committee members of the garden, Lizzie, who's going to take us on a tour around the garden.
These are the nets that we use on our beds most of the year. So they're enough to keep the squirrels out, but they're big enough to let pollinators through. We used to use this green type, which has much smaller holes, and we realized that it actually was preventing the pollinators. So we got this new netting, but we have put this over the top this year to prevent the squirrels getting in, because they just love to half eat everything. Like we'll come down and find a half-eaten tomato kind of just like thrown on the ground. So they don't even bother hiding the evidence. Yeah, we try and work on organic principles. So using natural pest control. And it's a lot of trial and error, like finding out what works. Like with the slugs and snails, for example, like, you know, we tried so many different things. Oh, great, these are nearly ready now. Look at those.
Black tomatoes.
Yeah.
Purple.
So, we've got quite a few different varieties of tomato. I can't remember the name of this one, but it just looks so cool.
They taste quite different.
I don't know. We haven't actually grown this type before. Yeah, you can see kind of a few different types. I think this is a blush tomato, so it's not going to get much more red than that. It kind of stays this kind of pinkish color. And then here we've got some more kind of what people think of when they think of tomatoes, the red ones.
How do you decide which crop you put in which place, and who decides that?
Yeah, so we've got a committee that's elected. We have an AGM each year to elect the committee, and one of the roles on the committee is head gardener. And so what their role is to gather requests from everyone at the start of the year, like what do members want to grow in the garden? And then the role of the head gardener is make sure that happens. So make sure everyone's happy that we grow everything that people have said they want. So that includes, her role is deciding where things go and kind of planning, because, you know, things take different time and need different space. So she kind of makes sure that there's a bit of a plan for what's going to go where at different times of the year. And she also keeps the to-do list up to date. So that means that if somebody comes in on their own instead of in one of the group sessions, if they work from the to-do list, then they know that everything that needs to be done to keep all of the crops going is going to be done. You come here and you meet so many people, you know, it really does, it combats that loneliness that you can have living in an urban area. But I think also just being in nature, being outdoors, being surrounded by green, even that in itself really impacts emotional well-being as well.
I think places like this, especially in big cities where people often do kind of struggle in finding a link or a connection to something that is not offices or buildings or concrete or bus stops and that kind of stuff is something that I can see in a lot of people.
A place to like hang out, and then they might give you jobs if you fancy, and they are different types of jobs, so there might be like handiwork or so whatever you kind of want from it. Very chilled, and you learn a lot.
Like many other people here in London, I work sitting down at a desk and at my computer and stuff, and so looking for an activity to put myself outside and do something tangible and concrete and with your hands was one of the main reasons. But also it was inspiring for me to be in a group that would do stuff and things and activities for the community, because as someone that has spent most of his adult life as an expat, finding your own routings where you are is kind of like a big thing in terms of assessing your identity, and this place gave it to me. So I got here about 3 years ago, and I got stuck doing compost for all this time and growing veggies and having tea and just gardening and growing food together.
The last few years, it really has been like people are interested in permaculture and agroforestry, and people are interested in biodiversity. So yeah, it really is coming from like what the members are bringing and what they want to see happen. So yeah, it's very much a space that's been made by the members together. We actually won the London in Bloom Environmental Challenge. So we are the category winners in the whole of London for how we think about the environment in the processes that we use in the garden. This corner we call the fungarium because we're trying to grow oyster mushrooms in there. So this is really new. This was only put in a few months ago. It's just old logs which we try and keep damp. It's a very sort of sheltered corner of the garden, so those are the good conditions for mushrooms, like damp and dark and cool. And we're kind of adding to that shelter by planting these brambles, and they produced a lot, so yeah, that was great. We should be making some blackberry and apple jam this week, I think. But yeah, the fungarium. So Laura took a workshop on how to grow spores at home, and so she cultivated this Tupperware box of spores and brought them down and injected them into the logs and the straw. And it also provides habitat for different kind of beetles and bugs and things. So it's kind of like it's sort of serving both purposes, that it's a wildlife corner and also a food growing corner, because our other wildlife areas are just for the wildlife, and this is the only little corner that's like, actually this is both. This is how we can grow food for humans and provide for wildlife. This kind of then blends into our food forest, which is this little space here. I mean, I say food forest, I should say mini food forest. And again, this is about really learning from indigenous ways of growing and working with nature. So we will be creating this little ecosystem that will sort of take care of itself. It does take 2 or 3 years to establish, and we only put the trees in November. So we've got a cherry tree there and a fig tree, and we will be planting things at other levels. So there'll be kind of mid-level plants as well, and then ground cover. But yeah, so it takes a couple of years to actually plant everything in and for it to kind of get established. But once it's established, it really will just kind of be like a forest, but it's producing food. So
you don't have to keep gardening so much.
Exactly, yeah. the idea is all we'll have to do if we get it right is harvest the food and once a year do some pruning, and that's kind of minimal intervention, but maximum yield. Part of the funding we got when we did the bird spa, we also used some of the funding to create this bee mound, which we've called Beetopia. And this is specifically for a type of bee called a solitary mining bee. And there's about 60 or 70 different mining bees in the UK. Basically, so they're not like honeybees and bumblebees that live together in a big colony where you've got one queen that lays the eggs and then all the others are kind of like workers that go out and get the nectar and the pollen, and they take care of the young and all of that kind of stuff. Solitary mining bees, each female makes her own nest and lays her own eggs. So they like to have open sandy soil, and each female will dig a tunnel. That's why they're called mining bees. Lay an egg, plug it up with a bit of nectar and soil, another egg, another plug, another egg, another plug, and they fill up their tunnel like that. And there's enough nectar in there to feed the grub when it hatches. And so then it grows into the adult underground. But this kind of habitat is being lost because people are building on it or paving over it, or even just planting on it. Because, you know, people look at this and kind of think, oh, there's nothing going on there, I'll put a nice bush in. But actually there's a lot going on under the ground. So this funding was made available to try and support this type of bee. So this is a new arrival, and it was housing a bee skep, so one of those kind of dome-shaped homes for honeybees. And it's all upcycled from like London-based stuff. So these are chestnut tree logs. This is London mud along with hemp. This is hemp up here. So basically it's a bee shelter. We're just going to fix it up and add some logs, drill some holes in the logs, add some twigs, and that will then be a home for wild bees of different types. Yeah, and I'll take you around the corner to the compost corner, the little sign here. So these signs move because you move what each bay is used for, but at the moment, this is where we're adding all of our garden waste into, and we mix that with things like cardboard and shredded paper. So you get a mix of nitrogen in the green waste and carbon in the brown waste. Then when it's ready, can I show you a bay that's ready? I think the one at the end is the ready one, but it's under a pile of stuff. So this chair is here because one job that always needs doing is sifting. So yeah, people like get the chair out, get one of the sieves, and sieve the soil into our wheelbarrows. That job needs doing all the time, and some people really love it because it's kind of like a mindfulness thing. Like you just sit there and like sieve it. But yeah, I can show you what it looks like when it's ready. So yeah, you can see how good that is. That's like prime compost to us. We're really proud of it.
How long does it take to arrive to that state?
It takes longer during the winter when it's cold, but I think in the summer maybe like 3 months. Yeah, and we also separate the tree leaves because they take longer. So we have one bay that's just for the dry tree leaves, and that creates leaf mulch that we use to put on top of the beds, and that helps to prevent weeds and prevent evaporation. And it also adds a bit of nutrients as well as the leaves kind of then continue to break down into the soil. And we actually accept food waste here as well. We've got 2 hot bins where we can put food waste from people's kitchens. So we have a little bin by the gate, so where people can drop their scraps off, like any kind of vegetable and fruit scraps, and we add it into the hot bins. And then when that's ready, we mix it in with this. So you get a lot more micronutrients that you don't get in the cardboard and the green leaves. So these planters here, we only put them in last April. They're really new, and this was part of some funding, the same funding that we were using for the rainwater project. So it's about kind of making local food growing more sustainable and more accessible. We kind of decided that we wanted to have these planters out here to soften that boundary, make it more friendly looking, and yeah, also just provide some food for people without them having to come into the garden. They can just pick the fruit as they go past. So we've got strawberries, raspberries, white currants, black currants. I think at some point we will be planting out honeyberries, which we're growing inside at the moment until they're big enough. Yeah, we run these stalls around different events in the borough where we sell these for a donation, and that raises money just to cover our core costs. So buying public liability insurance every year and buying the seeds that we need and replacing tools. So yeah, all of that kind of covers that. Probably the biggest bit of advice would be like, let it take its time, like be patient. No, things are not going to happen straight away, especially if you want to work in this community way with other people. Like, yeah, you've really got to take that time to build trust with each other and learn how each other works and recognize, oh, who's got particular skills and who's got particular time, and you know, who can put those things together into the pot. So it is like really learning to let that whole process take its time. It's like letting something grow, you know. It's the same as that. You can't force the seed to sprout at the wrong time. Like, it's the same with bringing the community together to do something. It's like, yeah, it's going to take the time it's going to take. So really learning to be patient and like letting go of, if you've got your own timeline in mind, being able to let go of that and work with what you've got, you know, who's coming to the space, what skills have they got, what ideas have they got. Really about like listening and taking that time and being patient, I think. So yeah, letting things grow the way they're going to grow. Oh, not quite, but